Darlin, welcome back to the mother of all talk shows. I don't really know where to start. Let me start with Donald Trump. He gave his clearest hint yet, didn't he, that he's running in 2024. Here's my question. If he runs, he wins. And how can those that expended all that effort to get him out last time allow him to run and win again? I'm not sure that he'll manage to actually even get to the starting line. What say you?
Yes, it's fairly apparent now based on the disastrous first year of the Biden administration that Donald Trump, Donald Duck, Donald anybody will be able to beat Joe Biden in 2024. The Republicans are undoubtedly going to retake the House and Senate. I suspect there will be numerous investigations into Hunter Biden and various other things. And I don't think it'll be a fun 2 years for Joe Biden. By the end, if he's still able to run, he'll be beaten, battered, and bruised. And if Donald Trump's in good health, I think he's going to win. Now, what Donald Trump did at a rally he was having in Texas was he basically said that the 600 or 700 people who have been charged by the Justice Department in connection with January 6th were treated, to quote him, disgracefully, and that he would consider pardoning them. And it's what Donald Trump does. He holds his base together. He gets his entire base excited. He gets them to the polls, and that's his strength. And that's what I think could carry him through, again, providing that he's in good health and spirit in 2024. I think that's what could carry him through.
Speaking of carrying through, who's carrying Joe Biden? I asked the question at the beginning of the show. It seems to me impossible to believe that Joe Biden is really in executive control of the most powerful country on the earth. And it doesn't seem likely to me that there's enough confidence in his vice president to let her control the country either. So I ask the question, who is running the United States?
Well, and that's a good question, because to start, before you get to running the country, neither one of them can even do a press conference. Neither one of them can put together a coherent set of or articulate any coherent policies. So they try to get through, both of them try to get through press conferences without humiliating themselves. So it is commonly believed inside the Beltway that the reason for the inconsistent foreign policies, inconsistent domestic policies, is because there are a number of forces fighting for power behind, a hollow and decrepit administration.
Are they wagging the dog, therefore, in the Ukrainian imbroglio, or are they serious about? Are they cavalier about the prospect of a European war?
It's interesting you say that, because there's certainly an argument to be made that this is wag the dog. But if you look at the history of the Victoria Nulands and the people in the Biden administration, this was predictable. It was almost like 2000 when George Bush came in with the crew that he came in, and many of us who knew who they were predicted, well, we're going to have some significant foreign policy problems. So it may effectively, distract people. But to be quite honest, it's falling apart. One of the things that's being heavily reported in the United States is the row between the President Zelensky and other members of the Ukrainian leadership and the neocons in Washington, D.C. So I think the Ukrainian leadership has figured out that they were being fattened up for the slaughter all along when they thought they had a strong political and military ally.
That's right. It turns out that if Zelensky is regime changed, he'll be regime changed from Washington rather than Moscow.
Yes, and you're looking at something similar to what the Washington did in South Vietnam and whatever it was, 62 or 63, where they coup the leader, they put in a more compliant government, but they end up with so much instability that the country, eventually falls apart. And right now, it appears there's great instability. However, I will add this: one of the things that the last few weeks, maybe few months, has demonstrated, I'm sure, to Ukraine and to, at minimum, the leaders of France and Germany, is that Russia is actually a more reliable diplomatic and economic partner to them than the U.S. empire. Russia wants a diplomatic resolution. Ukraine now wants a diplomatic resolution, and the polls say the people of Ukraine and the people of the U.S. want diplomatic resolutions, and the U.S. Seems almost irresponsible and giddy over the prospects of what could be a war that could end humanity.
Yeah, the Ukraine is only one of the tracks. China was the other one. China's being left alone. I suppose it's slightly relieved. It looked like it was going to be war with China. Then it looked as if it was going to be war with Russia. But truthfully, I believe the United States is not capable of fighting a war with hypersonically nuclear-armed adversaries. And I agree with you. I don't believe the American people would stand for it. The polls are clear enough. Biden should negotiate a settlement with Russia.
Oh, absolutely. The American people, if you look, the last poll I saw was somewhere around 59 to 29 in favor of, as the poll put, a deal with Putin for a resolution. If you look at the numbers in America, the number of the polls in America, the voters, number one is healthcare, and then you get to climate and other things like that and infrastructure. So the American people overwhelmingly want the leaders of our country to focus on the stress and strife that people are going through as a result of the pandemic economy.
Now, you're a retired police officer. You're a member of the ACLU, the Civil Liberties Union. You keep an eye on matters judicial. A liberal, so-called, I hate the word, a liberal justice has been prevailed upon by the Democrats to announce his stepping down so that they can, while they still can, control who gets his seat. Tell us about that.
Yes. Well, there's, Justice Stephen Breyer has announced his retirement, and there are many who believe that he's doing this prior to the Republicans regaining power in November. It's almost, unless there's some kind of a black swan event, it's almost baked in the cake at this point. And he's giving President Biden an opportunity to appoint someone. Now, the discussion has been, will it be a black female? Apparently, apparently President Biden said it's going to be a black female. But then the secondary discussion is, well, if the black female is Clarice Thomas, the daughter of Clarence Thomas, is that going to be good enough? The discussion now is definitely moving to the ideology. Do we just get another person who, who checks off the boxes, but they're just another corporate puppet, which is probably the safest bet with President Biden.
Are you telling me that Clarence Thomas, I remember so vividly the controversy about him getting on the Supreme Court, his daughter might be joining him there?
Well, I don't know that he has a daughter named Clarice Thomas. That was kind of a metaphor, but that was if you get my point, it was just any random far right wing conservative.
I do. It's about tick boxing. It's about identity politics. That's how Kamala Harris got there, and she's turned out to be a disaster. How certain are you that the Republicans are going to win in November?
The polls are overwhelming, but the other part of it is this. This is why I'm certain. I do a lot of radio around the country, and what I find is the various interest groups, that the coalition that makes up the Democratic Party is extremely upset, dismayed. I interview people who do work for immigrants and work on the border on behalf of immigrants. And I find especially the younger Latino community are furious with President Biden. We had an election here recently in the D.C. area where it was suspected that the 100,000 Ethiopians who lived in the area might have turned or helped to turn the election for the Republicans in Virginia. So the coalition that got Joe Biden over the hump is collapsing, and I suspect that there will be a bloodbath.
Fascinating. Garland, thanks very much indeed, as always, for joining us on the Mother of All Talk Shows.